Thanks for joining me for part 2 of my wooden cog video. In the first part I made the inner section, which was basically a wheel. In this part I'll make the outer rim and then I'll make the teeth and fit those and finish it. I won't go over my process for milling the wood, as I showed plenty of that in part 1 and I've also showed it many times in my past videos. I'm tilting the saw blade over 6 degrees, ready to cut segments for the outer ring. First I'll cut off one end of all the pieces. When I've done that, I set a stop and cut 30 pieces, which is what I need to make the ring. I'm doing a quick test fit to make sure the angles are correct and I get a good fit. It's difficult to see just placing them there, so I'll run some tape around to hold them and they look just about spot on, so I'll get on with gluing them up. It doesn't need any clamps as the tape pulls it together plenty tight enough. I've made the ring slightly too big. I did leave a couple of millimeters extra and in hindsight I should have left more. It really is only just too big and I could have maybe just gone with it, but instead I've decided to cut the ring in 5 places, and when I rejoin them I'll place those joins where the spokes meet the rim and keep it all even. The thickness of the blade kerf over the 5 cuts will remove just enough material to reduce the diameter of the ring. If it's okay with you, I'm going to sponsor my own video just like I did in part 1. If you're looking for some woodworking projects to put your hand to and to start building some of my most popular projects, simply click the link in the description below. And for just the next 72 hours, I've bundled 5 of my top woodworking plans for over 50% off. Inside the bundle, you'll get access to my bedside table plans, mini workbench, folding desk, solid workbench, and my stylish plywood desk. So simply click the link in the description below before this 72-hour sale is up. There's not long left, so if you're interested, you should get in there now. And as always, thanks for your support. I'll use a router and a circle cutting jig to make the segmented ring round, but to do that I need a center point to rotate the jig around. I've screwed these battens down to my workbench and a dab of hot glue on the ends will stop the ring from moving. Now I'm finding the center point with a compass. It's barely big enough, but with the pencil fully extended it just about works. I may make a big compass in the future and make a video if that's something you'd like to see. And I run the compass around from the point to double check that it's in the right place. I'm making one pass and then setting the stop on the router to go 5mm deeper, and then make another pass and keep doing that until the router hits its limit of depth. That's the inside done. I'll move the pin on the jig and route the outside of the ring. I was pushing here to get this done before the end of the day, and I didn't even realise until I saw the footage, but I've been routing the outside in the wrong direction. It was cutting very well though, and it wasn't a problem. To remove the rest of it, I'll use a pattern following bit on the router table, and I could only just about get it all with the longest bit that I have. It's not perfect, but will clean up easy enough with a bit of sanding. The ring is a bit of a loose fit with the wheel section. There's a millimetre gap all the way around, which isn't too bad as I can glue it with construction adhesive. I'll clamp it in position first, and while I was doing that, I had the great pleasure of a visit from someone many of you will know.
Love what you're doing here, Neil, but I really think you should have made this out of metal. I think welding and sparks would have made this job a lot better. But I think the clamp can probably go on here. There you go. How's that?
Scott's a fellow maker on YouTube. His channel is For Me Industrious. He makes awesome stuff. He's super creative, and we'll hopefully do a collaboration video sometime soon. For those who don't know him, I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, the reason I clamped it together in position was to place some masking tape in the hope of avoiding the construction adhesive getting all over the place. Next, I'll take out the screws that I just fixed into the end of each spoke. I'll add some glue and then I'll put it back together again. The tape did its job and it limited the amount of spread. I then ran another bead of glue around and then cleaned it up with some terps. I reckon that's looking great and starting to look a lot more substantial. Now I'll start the teeth, and to make those I've prepared this stock off camera. I milled 3 sides and now I'll cut this profile into each piece. First I'll cut a bevel off each side and then I'll route a groove along the bottom. I'm cutting the teeth to length, and I'm doing that slightly longer than the width of the rim that they'll be fixed to, and there's 65 of them. To attach the teeth, I'll be using splines, and I prepared this stock off camera, and here I'm cutting them into individual pieces. I've already got the grooves for the splines cut in the teeth. Now I need to cut grooves around the outside of the outer rim. I'm going to work in sections going from spoke to spoke. After measuring the distance around the outside between the spokes, I'll divide that by the number of teeth. To get me in the ballpark, I've set that measurement on some calipers, and after pushing them into a piece of scrap, I'll set some dividers from the indents. I'm setting them out lightly first just to see how close they land on the spokes. It's a little over, so I made adjustments and then checked again. It took a few times until I got them perfect. I then used the divots made by the dividers to mark across the rim. Before I route the grooves, I'll remove the screws. I wouldn't want to hit those, but I will put them back in later on. And to route the grooves, I've made this saddle jig, which doesn't need explaining as it really is quite simple. I'm just eyeballing the center of the jig to the marks, and because I need to route the groove at 3 different depths, I've made this block to help set the router quickly. The project is just a piece of art for display, although I would actually like to make a cast of it. I have no idea about pattern making and certainly don't claim to. I'm just having fun creating something cool. I realised I'd need to add fillets in the corners if it did get casted, but I didn't realise, and it was brought to my attention, any straight sides would need a draft angle on them, basically a taper to allow it to come out of the mould. Anyway, if anyone thinks that they could help with casting it, I'd love to hear from you. I marked out each section separately to make sure that the teeth didn't go too far astray. I didn't want to get all the way around to where I started and end up with half a gap for the last tooth. That took a good couple of hours to cut all those, and now I'll glue the teeth in. Because I was wetting the area around the next tooth when wiping off the excess glue, I glued every other one and then went back around and filled in the rest afterwards. I was struggling a little with this setup, so I stood the cog upright and used a smaller brush so I wasn't getting in quite as much of a mess, and this worked out much better. I reckon the teeth have really pulled it together, and I think it looks amazing. Next I can start sanding, and there's lots of it. The belt sander did a great job of sanding the slightly oversized teeth down to the rim, and then I used a detail sander to get in between the teeth and over the whole thing, getting into all the corners. I was very unsure what to finish it with. I even thought about painting it. In the end, I went for hard wax oil. I put 2 coats on, sanding over the whole thing between the coats, and even though I haven't shown it here, I did a bit of filling here and there too. I made a simple bracket off camera, and for now I'll just hang the cog on the wall for display, but I may make a series of them and connect them to the propeller. If I did make more, I'd make them in an easier way using plywood, and that would make them more achievable to make a bunch of them. If that's something you'd like to see, let me know. I also thought about making it into a light fitting that could hang over our dining table. And by the way, I'm hoping to make a new dining table soon, so look out for that. Some of you said it would make a great coffee table, and I'm sure it could be used in many ways. I put it up in our granny flat just to see how it would look, but I think it will live in the workshop. Let me know what you would have done with it. And while I'm in the granny flat, I thought I'd show you this light fitting that I made years ago from corking nozzles. Anyway, for now, it'll just be on display in the workshop, and I do need to put an end cap over that bracket so it can't fall off. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.